Problem England have is they don't have any left backs, actually.
But we're playing some fantastic football. Gordon was blown out of his arse. Let's take him off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NUFC360 podcast with Stephen and Ryan. Boys, we're winning games. We're winning games. We want to go back a few weeks ago. I was just about ready to jump out my top window, but we're playing some fantastic football. We're coming off a 1-0 win against Arsenal. Arteta's crying. It's lovely. Ryan, give us a brief summary. Were you pleased with the performance? What did you like about what happened the weekend?
First of all, I'm good. Thanks for asking.
No, don't do that anymore. I don't care. Just don't care anymore.
No, yeah, look, it was an excellent performance. I think, to be honest, off the back of the last two games, still really, really happy with the way we've played. I think it's been, exactly what we've been asking for. And in terms of that intensity and that performance levels, we've seen it in the last two games. I think Howard's rightfully come under a bit of stick this season, in the sense that the performances haven't been there. And, you can try and beat around the bush and say, look where we were 3 years ago, all this, all that. But the fact of the matter is the performances weren't good enough. And you see it at the weekend. You see that the players are still capable of it. But I think what I was going to say is he deserves a lot of credit, actually, because I think he's took a step back. He's maybe, assessed that, this isn't working, the right side wasn't working. And, Joe Linton, bringing him into the left and bringing Willock back into the team has made an absolutely huge difference. I mean, we are such a better team with Joe Linton on the left. Not to blow my own trumpet, but I've been harping on about it for weeks and weeks. I don't think Joe Linton's a midfielder. He's much better on the left. He gives you that support defensively as well, alongside Willock. And then you've got Willock's pace and his transitions. And I thought Willock was really, really good on the weekend. Because I think he's also struggled. I think he's been out of the team for a while now and with injuries. And he's come on a few times and looked just off the pace, to be honest. Like his shoes are on the wrong feet. But I thought he was a lot better at the weekend. And I thought him and Longstaff and Bruno, actually, all did a really, really good job in the midfield. Because I think it was a big call for Mehdi to drop Tonali. But, it worked out. And I thought Newcastle on the whole thoroughly deserved the win. I thought we were by far the better team. I thought we nullified Arsenal. Defensively, we were solid. We were committed. Lewis Hall, excellent again. And I think, you
always said it.
Can't complain. It was a fantastic goal as well to finish off, an old school goal. And you don't see that a lot these days because this idea of you having to play inverted wingers or whatever, where left footers play on the right, but a good old school. It reminded me of that, obviously Shearer, but that Rondon header that he scored. Not like going to get Christ. I rolled the barrel there, but you know what I mean. But anyway, great win.
Steve, I'll go over to you on that. There's a lot to unpack there. Gordon on the right, he has made a lot of changes. What are your thoughts to that? Has that solved the problem? Is it just a different problem that we've got now? What are your thoughts on Gordon playing?
I don't think it's solved the problem because we know that Gordon prefers the left-hand side. Sorry, we've got a lot of players who can play on the left, right? We've got Gordon, Barnes, Willock, Joelinton. Isak can play across the front three if he needs to. I think we put, Sanusi can play out there. I think we obviously put Gordon on the right to get his talent into the game. And it paid dividends. He might not be in his most comfortable position at the moment, but he's clearly obviously still able to impact games from that side. And for how long have we been asking for, one of our right wingers to either use their right foot or use it well? Yeah. You look at, you have Almiron. I mean, Ryan mentions, this sort of modern need to have inside forwards and whatnot. And Almiron is completely incapable of using his right foot. And then Murphy is just too inconsistent and has too many lapses of judgment. But Gordon is so consistent, so direct, so fast, can cut inside. He can use his left foot. We've seen him putting good crosses with his left on the left-hand side before. But he was really good. He was excellent. I think it's a short-term solution for the problem that we had. And I think that we still need a long-term option there on the right-hand side to get Gordon back on the left where he belongs. He was fantastic.
Yeah. One thing for me is we've got the intensity back. I think Ryan touched on that. The pressing that we used to see. But the thing, don't be too negative because we're playing well, but do you think it's concerning that we're only starting to press again by having Joe Linton on the left, which he's not a world-class left winger. He misses, opportunities from 6 yards out. He's good there, and he does do a lot there defensively as well. But I don't particularly like him starting on the left. You'd rather have someone that's got Gordon's ability playing there. And also Sean Longstaff, who I think has been fantastic in the last few games. Defensively, he's been very intelligent, putting in some fantastic tackles. But is this a step backwards in the team where we can't get in the likes of Tonali and we can't get in Barnes and everyone else? We're not just shoving in all of our talent. We seem to have gone back to when Eddie Howe first came in. Is that a problem, Ryan?
Yes and no, I guess. One of the problems we have is obviously, and I think a lot of teams have it, where you try and take England, for example, get all your best players in the team, and you don't necessarily get the best balance of the team. So although you might not have the star names in the side, your Tonali, your Barnes, the balance of the team was just so much better. And you saw it from the Chelsea game, from the first 5 minutes of the game, that, it's almost like these guys know what to do. They know when one presses. They know Joe Linton knows how Willock's going to play, and Willock knows how Joe Linton's going to play. Again, Longstaff, he's used to playing in the midfield. He knows the role that's being asked of him. And it's tricky. It is going to be a tricky balance moving forward, because you have a player in Tonali that is too good to sit on the bench. But at the same time, how do you fix that problem? I think watching Tonali as well, and watching him against Chelsea, he has to play through the middle.
Yep.
It's by far his best position. He doesn't work on that in that Longstaff role. He just looks lost, unfortunately. And I think he's too good of a player to be kind of shipped out on the right to that role. And I think he's got to come in the middle, and whether Bruno goes to Longstaff's position or not, I think that's probably the most natural replacement. But I think apart from that, I think the front three has to stay the same. I think it's our best front three right now with the options that we've got. I think Barnes is arguably been more effective for us anyway, coming off the bench. He's had a few chances so far this season, and he has been missing a lot of the games. So I don't think it's an issue. I think, like you say, Mark, it's almost like we feel like we're going back, but also when we're going back to what worked and what got us that fourth Champions League spot. So at the same time, I think it's a move in the right direction.
Yeah, but if we can maintain that, and if we finish fourth again, then lovely. Sean, we'll build a statue of Sean outside the new stadium whenever they get moving on that. So I know you're itching for this, Stephen. Is there any numbers that you saw the weekend that you can enlighten us on that stood out for you on your charts or whatever it is you use?
I mean, there are a few. I mean, if you're a neutral, that wasn't exactly the best game to watch, right? No. I mean, obviously a 1-0 win, but I mean 1.6 XG between both teams. 4 shots on target between both teams all game, and we had all 4 of them, which is obviously very impressive from our perspective. I think you look at some of the average positions were interesting. Like on the ball, we sort of countered Arsenal's sort of 4-4-2 shape on paper by playing very, very much in a sort of 4-2-4 on the ball, with sort of Joe Linton and Willock sort of averaging out on the left-hand side next to each other. There were some particular standouts. You look at, we've mentioned Hall being excellent. We mentioned Longstaff being excellent. Longstaff had, I think, 7 tackles and interceptions, which was a match high. Hall and Tino both had 5 each. All 3 of those players had a higher defensive output than Arsenal players, albeit Arsenal had more possession. It was interesting seeing how some of our passing numbers broke. So we normally expect, a lot of the progressive passing with how we are at the moment to come down the left-hand side. Hall and Gordon he's normally on the left, and then Bruno and even Joe Willock's a good passer of the ball, and you expect it to come down that side. But for once, and I think a big part of it does have to do with Gordon being there, all of our progressive passing came through the right-hand side of the pitch. I think Tino and Hall were both match highs for our progressive passing numbers, which was interesting considering Tino's strength is not his passing yet, or at the moment at least. And all of our progressive carrying was coming down the left, which does make more sense when you add in the left-hand side of Joe Linton and Joe Willock, who were both excellent at that. But yeah, there's not really many interesting numbers because it wasn't a very interesting game unless you're really into, tactics and specific positional instructions and whatnot, in which case it does become like more of a chess match than anything else. It wasn't a free-flowing game of football. There wasn't that. There's not a huge number of interesting stats from that game.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, what I've always loved about Eddie Howe is, especially when he plays this particular way with these particular players, is once we do get ahead I'm incredibly confident that we'll either get, at the very least, a draw against an Arsenal side that should have been going for the title, but balled it already, which is lovely to see. I think it was a few comments that Arteta said that we played our game. I think he was trying to imply that we were being dirty or negative.
To drag them into drag them into our style of play. But
I don't know if that's really the most fair, though, because I think every team wants to impose their style of play on their opponent, right?
But the referee was crap as well. The referee was giving every single soft free kick all over the place.
I do think that we did play what we used to play a lot. You know, we were more physical, we were more intense. But we didn't. We time wasted a little bit. But I think it was more just the way, how unhappy Arteta was with just the game that made it seem like he was having a go at us. I think he was just saying that we imposed our game on them well.
Stephen just said it there. The fact that they didn't have a shot on target shows just how well, one, that Newcastle were dominant, and two, that the Arsenal were poor, and three, that Newcastle were excellent defensively as well. I mean, you restrict a team like Arsenal to 0 shots on target. That is an accomplishment in itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a big part of it, though, is I think that game, it showed, obviously, with Arsenal's shape, but also their personnel. They have such a desperate need for a centre forward. You look at, I was mentioning the average positions, leading to us playing this sort of 4-2-4. Arsenal ended up in this sort of, they sort of ended up in a 4-4-2 shape. But what ended up happening was you had sort of Rice and Partey ended up moving a bit wider a little bit. Trossard and Havertz dropped a lot deeper. And then you had Martinelli and Saka pushing up a lot. And, when you can't, there was a big gaping hole where Isak plays for us, where any good striker would be. You're just sitting in the dead center. And, Saka won. He was by far their best player. I think he was the one who had the most impact in ground duels. I think he beat everyone on our team apart. The only one that came close on our team was Lewis Hall, I think, for winning, for total ground duels won. Martinelli was awful.
He is. I don't rate him at all.
Yeah, he had a good couple seasons, or decent couple seasons, and people have sort of said his stock skyrocketing, but he's not that great. Trossard's a good sub for them. Havertz was dropping a lot deeper than he has been a lot under Arteta, which is really weird. They just need their. I mean, this is why I want to say we could probably touch on this, how obsessed Arsenal fans seem to be with them buying Alexander Isak. That you stick a really top striker in that team, it could be a big spark for them. But it was really apparent for against us. Our backline didn't. The Cher and Byrne didn't have to do too much in that game.
No, they would have been surprised. And I think one of the big misses for them, and I don't want to talk about Arsenal too much, but tie it back to Newcastle, I think, in the sense that in those type of games where you are expected to dominate the ball and break teams down and score goals, one of the problems Newcastle also have when they're playing a team that tends to sit in a low block against them is a lack of that creative midfielder. And I think Odegaard is that guy that just makes it all tick 100%. For them. Yeah. He's a massive miss for them, and Trossard just cannot play that role. Or even Marino, in fact. I thought Marino
was why they they brought on Ethan Nwaneri, didn't they, to try and play that sort of way, but he's too young and inexperienced to go up against. Yeah. Especially that late on in the game. He was never going to be that good at finding pockets of space in an already very compact team at that point in the match.
Yeah. And I think Newcastle actually play better in those games. I generally do. I have more confidence at times watching us against a big team like Arsenal at home, because I think it suits the way we play. We're suited to playing on the break. We are a team that's better on the counter, and we're seeing in games this season where teams are coming to sit in deep that we do have that problem. So I think I've got a good record.
That's my concern. Is when I say we're going backwards, it's kind of like Eddie Howe was starting to maybe try and play on the front foot, and we were just getting beaten, couldn't break teams down. We're bringing in players like Tonali that should be giving that extra bit of creativity that maybe someone like Sean Longstaff, as amazing defensive as he is, lacks that intelligence going forward. And I think that's what I mean when it's going backwards. I mean, we're beating Arsenal. We had a really good win against Chelsea as well. But summarize, who would you give man of the match to, Stephen? Who was your man of the match?
That's no contest for me. It was Lewis Hall.
Lewis Hall for you, Ryan?
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I think I think BT or whoever was on TV gave it to Gordon, but I think it was. I mean, Gordon did have a good game, but Hall was by far the man of the match.
I
think it was TNT gave it to Hall. I think.
Yeah,
I must have been watching a different coverage, I guess. But they give it to Gordon.
I don't think Gordon. I mean, again, he runs his one quick thing. When our players are tired, it's 80 minutes. Fucking take him off, Eddie. Just take him off. Just put Almiron on. He's good. He's as good defensively. That was infuriating.
It's the persistent. Even we're winning games and we're doing a lot better. But there are still things. Even when we finished fourth, there were issues. Things that frustrated you about the way that Howe manages games. Right? His subs have always been questionable sometimes, or have often been questionable sometimes. I think obviously there's the drop in quality, but at that point in a game against a team like Arsenal, you need energy, you need pressing, you need someone who can do their job over someone who can maybe deliver a better ball at that point in time when we clearly set up to just hold on to the lead, switching to a back five and everything. This has always been a thing with Howe. It is a nitpick, but it's something we should expect. It's not something that's come out of nowhere either.
I think he got the Tonali sub at the right time as well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think he did come on at the right time, and it did give us a bit of a boost. I do agree with Stephen. I think there's such a massive drop off in the quality of the players you're taking off and the players you're bringing on. And I also think it's hard to come into a game like that if you're Miguel Almiron and you're coming on in the 80th minute, and you're not up to speed with the pace of the game, and you've got 2 minutes, or you're not even that 60 seconds to get yourself up to speed in a game of such fine margins. It is hard to come into a game like that. But you're right, Mark. I mean, Gordon and Isak, I was screaming out for it as well. They were both absolutely off their feet. Isak was begging to come off. I mean, take him off, put Sula. We're not going to be scoring goals at that point. So,
more pressing as well.
I wasn't advocating for the fullbacks to come off because it's extremely important that they're there. They're the defensive line, but when
you don't rotate the back line that much.
And if it's just, the number one was Isak, he had to come off at even 75 minutes. He was looking just
especially after Will Sula looked as good as he did against Chelsea. B team or not, it's a $500 million second string that put £500 million second string that Chelsea put out. But Will Sula's there to help. We were saying all of last season. That when Wilson wasn't fit, which is always, we were just running Isak into the ground, and we desperately needed a third centre forward, and we weren't bringing on the guy who's going to press a lot more and be a lot more physical and be up for the combative side of the game. Which it's a nitpick, but it is frustrating. We've got all this apparent emphasis on better load management of the players, better injury management of the players, and we're still giving Isak 90 minutes every match at the moment. Or pretty much every match.
I'd swap that up. And my man of the match, I actually gave it to Sean Longstaff. It was going to be Lewis Hall, but I just remember a few important tackles from Sean. I thought he played really, really well. And I've been criticised. I think he's limited, but used in that way, he's incredibly effective. Speaking of Lewis Hall, there has been mumblings before we move on to the weekend's game of an England call-up. Do you think that's the form he's in, right? Do you think that is deserved? Do you think you could see him in the England shirt for the senior team?
You could argue it's a little bit premature because it was only 5-6 weeks ago, maybe that.
I hate him.
Myself and you, Mark, were both saying that we don't think he's good enough right now, and he's not good enough defensively. I think he's been an incredible turnaround, been one of our most consistent players. Whether he's ready to go and play for England, the problem England have is they don't have any left backs actually, and they don't have any left-footed left backs apart from Luke Shaw, Ben Chilwell, and Ben Chilwell's not playing at Chelsea and Luke Shaw's been injured. So I think naturally Hall is the choice that comes in. He is growing under Howe, and I think, he's probably going to be England's left back moving forward. So at the same time, I'm saying he's not ready, but why not throw him in now and see what he can do? I mean, these are dead rubber games really. So get him in there and see what he can do.
As a proud Englishman, Stephen, what do you think to the England left back?
I agree with Ryan. I mean, I think it's very sort of self-apparent that there is a dearth of good left backs for the England squad. I mean, Luke Shaw's the Callum Wilson of left backs. When he's fit, he can be really good when he's fit, really good, but he's never fit. So you can't trust him. Leif Davis at Ipswich has been good this year.
I like him
for their level. He's been all right. Isn't Alfie Doughty English at Luton? He was good last season in the Prem. He was pretty solid. But if that's it, I mean, really, realistically, the only other guys who can play at left back are centre backs. You've got Levi Colwill, you've got Joe Gomez, That's about it. And then they've been playing Rico Lewis there. Trippier's played there various times throughout his England career. It just makes sense. Like, he's been playing really, really well. For years, England fans have always criticized managers for sticking with their favourites and not giving players time because of their form. Lewis Hall is the best left back best English left back playing at the moment, and it's not even a contest. I think get him in the squad, see what he can do. Thomas Tuchel will be aware of his ability anyway, because Tuchel will have been there as when Lewis Hall was in the academy, and that you'll have heard about the talents of Lewis Hall before. Thomas Tuchel will have an idea of how to use him. Tuchel likes wing backs and versatile players who can move in different positions, which is what Hall can do. I think he's primed for an England call up. I think if we were attacking at our levels that we did last year, his numbers would be a lot more impressive. I mean, we've had some real struggles scoring goals this season, and yet he's still in the top 28% among fullbacks in Europe for shot creating actions, top 27% for goal creating actions. He's really good at set pieces. His passing's really, really good. His progressive passing's good. He's one of the best defenders in Europe for passing into the final third, getting the ball forwards. He's just tremendous at it. And like we say, defensively, he's been getting better. Like, seems to get better every game.
He seems faster. I think his defensive positioning must be better because he seems like he's not being pace anymore.
It is quite notable that I think what's quite notable if you can watch him play, you sort of focus on him. He gives up on duels effectively, aerial duels or ground duels with players. If there's a loose ball, he'll give up on them a lot sooner now. And he gets back into position over necessarily overextending and potentially giving away the ball or allowing loads of space in behind. He's reading the game better. I mean, in his time with us as well, Eddie Howe clearly can spot a defender. Like, he knows pretty much everyone we've signed has done a job up until the point at which they're broken, like Mac Target. I think Lewis Hall's. I think he's got such a tremendous ceiling. He's defensively become excellent. I think he absolutely deserves to be in the squad. I mean, Ryan was right when he said it's a couple of dead rubber games. One Nations League game, and then I think the Ireland game.
That's a Nations League game as well, actually, I think.
Is it both Nations League games?
Still dead rubber games, really.
Yeah, two teams that England should be beating. It's such a low hanging fruit game for him to get minutes in.
Yeah, I think it'll look good on the international football, as international football is dog shit. So moving, I can't stand international football. It's proper crap.
Me neither.
It used to be the pinnacle. We talked about this before, but I think it's just dropped off massively. But we move on to the weekend. Now, when I look at a Forest fixture, I normally think, yeah, nice one. Yeah, we'll give him a game. We'll win easy. It's Forest, come on. Last time we played them at St James Park, Chris Wood got a hat trick and looked like the second coming of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And we've given them, Anderson as well, who's having a good season, though I think he's a bit rubbish myself. Ryan, what are your thoughts? Are you worried about the game of the weekend? What are you expecting from Forest? Everyone's been, they're kind of like the Newcastle of 2 years ago, just surprising everyone.
I did enjoy you getting your Anderson comment in there at the end. First of all.
I'll die on that hill.
No, I've been really, really impressed with Forest. I think they have been excellent. I really like the centre halves, actually. I think the centre halves are excellent, and I think that is the base of your team, and I think you're seeing massive improvements. I've always actually quite liked Nuno as a manager. Anyway, long story short, I think they're a dangerous side, and they've got a striker in the form of his life. And if you've got a striker in the form of his life and a team full of confidence, it's always going to be a tough game, isn't it? I think we've got a fairly decent record at the City Ground, though. I think we have won there, 3 times in a row or something, or 2 times in a row at least. It purely depends on, again, what we've been harping on about is consistency with Newcastle. You see a great performance like that at the weekend, and unfortunately, I don't feel confident enough that he can replicate that performance again. I think it's obviously a different game, and I think Forest are going to come flying out the blocks. And I do think whoever gets the first goal will win the game, because I can't see there being a lot of goals in the game, to be honest. I think it'll be a cagey affair, and I think Newcastle will probably, actually treat Forest with quite a lot of respect and sit quite deep. But I don't think we'll get beat. I can actually see it being a draw, personally.
I think a draw as well, but it's because it's away from home, Stephen, and it's again the drop off that we have away from home, and this gigantic, amazing player called Chris Wood. Are you scared of Chris Wood, Stephen? Does he haunt your dreams this week when you think about what he's going to do to us on Sunday?
If we can play like we have in the last 2 games, I don't think I'd be too concerned about Forest. Their strength this season hasn't been their attack; it's been their ability to stop you from scoring. Right? I mean, they've got the second best defense in the league on underlying numbers. Only Liverpool have got a better defense in terms of expected goals against than Forest do. But they're 14th in the league for expected goals scored at the same time. So they keep score lines low, try and hit you on the break and in set pieces. I think one of the things that stands out for them and with guys like Chris Wood in the game is that they're still quite shot happy, even though they don't score many. A lot of them do come from distance. I mean, they're 6th in the league for shots, 4th in the league for shots on target, which is surprising given the nature of their games. Yeah, I think Chris Wood will probably the risk for him or from him will be in set piece situations. Any dead ball situation, the ball is going to go straight onto his head, because that's what he's really good at. He's really good at being a physical outlet. We didn't play him the way that he's always been used at Burnley and at Forest when he was with us, and that's partly why it didn't work for him here. But he's always, was it when he joined us? I think he was one of only a handful of players who'd created was a double-digit expected goals each season for like 5 seasons in a row.
Yeah,
he's really good at making the most of scrappy games, and he's been in great form. We know all about your talent identification abilities, Mark. I'm not as critical of Elliot Anderson as you are.
He's going to score a hat trick.
I think he's honestly a few games ago when we were all being all doom and gloom about the season, and some of us, myself included, were saying that we're questioning Eddie Howe's position. There was I think my dad was the one that pointed out to me that if we had continued to play badly against Chelsea and Arsenal, and if we hadn't won the last 2 games, then this game before the international break, it was primed for Anderson scores his first senior goal against us to get Eddie Howe sacked. That was the scenario that was being put out, and I saw on Twitter a couple of times. Because he's been. I think you say he's having a good season. I think he's having an excellent season. His numbers are outrageous for a midfielder.
How many goals?
He's got no goals, 3 assists.
No. Oh, fuck me. Sorry, I didn't know he was that good. 3, you say? 3 assists?
I know, but you're the one that always harps on. It's not about stats, Mark.
Shit the bed. Yeah, but if
you just watch him. He has been excellent. There's absolutely
excellent. Yeah, he's both going forward and defensively. I mean, he's in the top 1% for midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues for blocks, top 2% for successful take-ons, top 5% for progressive carries. He's in the top 2% for midfielders for assists in Europe. Like, the underlying numbers for him are unbelievable. A big part of it does factor in that a lot of Forest's play goes through him, so his numbers will be juiced a little bit by that. But he's really excelling in a role where he's given a lot of freedom going forward, and he's shown clearly that he's learned some stuff both from Howe and from Nuno defensively.
And he's scored the same amount of goals as me, so he's good. He's a good player.
If Morgan Gibbs-White is, I know he's been out. I don't know if he's been suspended or injured. If he comes back in at the weekend, I'm not sure if he does or not. Does that impact Anderson subsequently as well? Because would he not be playing the role that Gibbs-White's playing?
I would be surprised. I know I'm bashing on him, but he is on good form. And the team, I think all managers are hard pressed to make changes to key players when you're in the form of your life. Like I say, if we brought in Tonali in that season when we finished 4th with Longstaff, would you have taken Longstaff out? You probably wouldn't have, because he was just so pivotal to the way that we play. So I'd be surprised if any major changes because of Morgan Gibbs-White coming in. I do think he's quality. I agree with Ryan in the score. Stephen, what do you think the score will be? We'll go to your prediction for actual numbers, Ryan, in a second.
Well, you guys both thought it'd be a draw, right?
I think draw. I think 1-1 is my prediction.
I think we win that game 1-0.
Ooh.
This is the comeback down to earth after 2 really good games against bigger opposition, right? I think a draw is very, very possible, but I just have a feeling that the defense is playing so well at the moment against good attacks, and Forest have shown they can attack, but I think we'll be in a good place to nab a 1-0 smash and grab away at the City Ground.
And Ryan, what do you think? At 1-1 and a 1-0, where are you lying, Mr. Negative? 3-0 defeat.
No, I'm going to go 1-1, actually. I actually agree with you. I think you take a draw away from home in the Premier League.
I won't be too
especially
unhappy.
at the minute, I think you're seeing results around the table. I mean, City, Arsenal have lost 2 away games on the bounce. The Premier League, although maybe some might argue the standard of the good teams isn't as high as it was, in terms of a competitive league right now, it is very, very competitive. We were 12th in the league, all doom and gloom, and then you beat Arsenal, and all of a sudden you're 3 points off 4th. So it is just such a competitive league, and especially away from home, it's always tough. And Forest on high, I would be very happy with a draw personally. I think it's a good result. But I do think we can win. I do think we can go there and win for sure. But I think it'll be a tough game, and I can see it being pretty scrappy and cagey. So 1-1.
Yeah, I think it's such a good fixture. Again, it might not be good on the eye because it's defenses basically against each other, but I can see us winning, I can see us drawing, I can see us losing. So yeah, all to play for. Guys, thank you very much for your time, for joining this wonderful, wonderful podcast that we've done. For those watching at home, if you're still watching, you've made it this far, like, share, and subscribe, comment your score prediction, and maybe you get it right like I did against Chelsea, which I got no credit for because I'm a very, very smart man, very genius boy. But yeah, lads, thank you for joining me. Up the tune. See you next time.